Paradare Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradare Yashodanandana Brajajannaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajannaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajannaranjana Yamunatira Vrajari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayana Manit Nit Narayana Manit Narayanam Smrita Naram Chaivam Namotamam Devam Sarasvyatam Vyasam Tatodaya. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisance unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, and to Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Shinmatakata Krishna Punyan Sagana Kirtanam Hridayata Stok Bhayatrani Vedanoti Saritatam. The Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, is the Paramatma, super soul in the heart of everyone, and the benefactor, the truthful devotee, who cleanses desires from the heart, cleanses desires from the material enjoyment of the heart of the devotee, who has developed an urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nasta praya bhavatreshu nityam bhagavata sevayam bhagavati uttama-shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed by loving service to the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, which is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 63, Texts 20 and 21. So I guess we chant both mantras? Okay. Alrighty. Notes. Okay. Let's see. Tanmata Kotara Nama Nagnya Mukta Sire Ruha Poro Pataste Krishnasya Putra Prana Varukshaya. I don't know which is better. Okay. Tanmata Karara Nama. Tanmata Kotara Nama. Nagna Mukta Siro Ruha. Uru Vastaste Krishnaya. Putra Pragna Virashaya. Tanmata Katara Nama. Nagna Mukta Siroruha. Puru Vataste Krishnaya. Putra Prana Virakshaya. Tanmata Katara Nama. Nagna Mukta Siroruha. Puru Vastaste Krishnaya. Putra Pragna Virakshaya. So we go to the 21. Purvashvaste Krishnaya Putra Pranari Rakshaya Tanmata Gurata Nama Nakna Mukta Siroha Purvashvaste Krishnaya Putra Prajnani Rakshaya taught his Banashuras. Mata, mother. Kotara, Kotara Nama, name. Kotara, Nagma, naked. Mukta, loosened. Siraruha, her, hair. Pura, in front. Avatishte, stood. Krishnaya, of Krishna. Putra, her sons. Prajna, life. Virakshaya, hoping to save. So, translation. Just then, Banasura's mother, Kotara, desiring to save her son's life, appeared before Lord Krishna, naked and with her hair undone. Should we go to the next one? Next, okay. I'll just read that. Tasta tiran mukha nagnam anirikshan tadaraja banascha tabat virata jinnadan vas visat puram. Translation. Lord Gadaraja turned his face away to avoid seeing the naked women, and Banasura, deprived of his chariot, his bow shattered, took the opportunity to flee into his city. Om Gyanam Dharmanhasya Kanajana Shalakya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shridhanyamanopistam stapitam yen bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swadaptikam vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Patakabalam Shri Guram Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrachatam Sagana Vaganata Habitam Tam Sajivam Sagwetam Sagadutam Parichana Sahita Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lilita Shri Vatsakapitamscha He Krishna Kunu Sindhu Dinabandhu Chakapate Gopisha Gopisha Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishparani Devi Parinami Hari Priye Vanchakapa Guru Drishcha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitinam Padna Vivo Vaishnavigo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So after reviewing this last night, I was trying to figure out what to comment on here, and there were a couple of simple points that I thought stood out. One, the name that is given here for Krishna. We have Garadhar and Garadhar, right? So the way that it's translated, it's deliverer from all evils. The way it is used in the library, deliverer from all evils. So I started thinking of examples of how one is delivered from all evils. And of course, we have Gadadhar, right? We have Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and by him um, descending and starting the Sankirtan movement, the Harinam Sankirtan movement. He's giving this mercy freely away for all the living entities so that they can actually attain self-awareness, higher consciousness, Krishna consciousness. And then there were other applications that I also saw. Swavit varahastra kalaha, samata purusa pusha, nadyat kama pato pito, tatu nama gadadurajaha. So in an instance here, this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.19. Men are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Praises those men who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Sri Krishna, the deliverer from all evils. So we're looking at this battlefield, and we look, the engagement that Banasura is having. He has a son, Kartikeya, and he's got all these soldiers, and they're taking a beating. They're absolute beating that they're taking. And if you look, they are devotees of Sambhu, you know. And so he's providing shelter. So what type of individuals are taking shelter under Lord Shiva, right? So we have these goblins, ghosts, and all these different personalities. So you can ask yourself, do they qualify as these hogs, dogs, camels, and asses? Well, yeah, they do, because we know when some scars are not properly performed, right, they come into the human existence through the birthing process because people are not properly practicing these samskaras. So the other thing that came to mind was this how Vedic culture was completely just sacrificed. And what I mean by sacrifice, you have Banasura's mother. She's like mothers, they're very attached to their sons, and they want to save their sons from some calamities. So what does she do? She actually is naked, and as the word in here, mukta, this mukta is referring to her hair. There's a lot of definitions for mukta. So it means liberation, but it also in here is translated as loosened. So her hair is free, right? So in a very cultured society, women don't loosen their hair. It's bound up. These are some of the etiquettes. But we have an idea that if the hair is loose, then you can pretty much guarantee that many other things may be available because of that particular situation. So as we just here in Chicago, or if you're watching internet or YouTube, TikTok, whatever, you see a lot of this looseness, not specifically in hair, because oftentimes the hair is not even real. Most of the hair are weaves or wigs or, people assessment of body beautiful is, put into the hair, right? But it's not even their hair. And these hair, the thing that's missing out here, we had dogs, camels, asses. Well, the other one is horses, because most of the hair is horse hair. It's not even it's not even their hair. So you have this tradition that people are having in order to beautify themselves, and they use another step of artificial means in order to do that. And then their hair is loosened, and it's not even their hair. It's not real. So what's real? We have these things. We have this conversation. What's real? There's nothing really real. And so you see a lot of things which are artificial, illusionary. And so Banasura's mother, Katara, she's thinking that for the supreme personality of Godhead, in order to distract him, I'm going to veil my false image in front of him, and it's going to deter him, right? He's going to be distracted. Well, it was a distraction because Lord Krishna is following protocol, right? He says, "Oh, cover yourself," this sort of thing. So this is an opportunity for Banasura to escape. So we have other dichotomies that are also included in this. We have a situation where uh, Draupadi, now we have Dushashan, who's actually trying to disrobe her, right? She's doing the opposite. She's trying to protect her honor, right? Of course, she surrenders, and in doing that surrender, Krishna is giving him all this garment. But here's a woman who's well, getting back to Draupadi, she's dragged from her apartment, right? Her hair is loosened. She's not even properly. She's even saying, I'm not dressed properly right now, right? So here she is. She's trying to follow all these formalities, and then she's being forced by providence, in some sense, to be in front of an assembly of men, great soldiers. And then on top of that, they're trying to disrobe her, right? And here you see in this particular situation, there's, I just want to save my son. So let me use some tactic to distract Krishna so that I can save my son. So you can see Draupadi's being saved in a divine way. And here, this is kind of fallacious. It's bogus. Trying to um, deter the inevitable. Uh, so we have these two systems that are taking place, and then we have Lord Shiva. You know, his position is, I'm fighting in this war because I'm trying to please Krishna and also glorify him at the same time. We want to glorify Krishna, so we're engaged in this battle, and his disciples are not following his cue. They're not understanding, why we fight, right? So this is the same thing that Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, right? Your duty is to fight, right? And even if your nature, even though you're trying to be a pacifist, you'll probably come around to fight anyway. But, however, you are going to incur all types of sin as a result of neglecting your duty. So we have a whole assembly of people that are not really interested in following a specific duty because of the lot that they're in. And so we see this manifestation. We see all these so-called followers of Shiva, unbeknownst to them that they're followers, but you see them as camels, asses, and what have you. Here it says, men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Praise those men who are never listened to the transcendental pastimes of Lord Krishna, the deliverer from evils. So our mission is to be delivered. Now, we can even take the concept of evil. What is evil, right? So simply evil is those activities which are not in accord with Krishna. So there's talk of, I heard Prabhupada was saying that um, if a man's burning inside of a house, he breaks the window to get in to save the person, then it's not sinful. But if a person who's robbing, he breaks the windows, tries to get, so it comes down to intent and who it's for, right? And so this idea that we're receiving in here, and I think we talked about this the last time I was here, what side of the fence? These are unauthorized activities. And I think Subal brought up the point that you have unauthorized leaders, people they're not bona fide. And then you have a circumstance which is also not bona fide. So due to this bogus situation, you have this calamity, but also it's entailed in a pastime that we can actually learn from. Um, Another point that I had brought up, based on this deliverer from evils, based on this statement, we can see that proper culture is vacant amongst demoniac class of men. For instance, I brought up the situation with Draupadi, her particular situation, And what I failed to mention is that there was another naked situation with Duryodhana, right? So his mother is telling him, this, in order to be successful in this battle, we need an advantage. And so what I'm going to give you is all my piety, and make sure you're not wearing anything. So Krishna hears this situation. He says, no, 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 this is not proper. You can't be naked in front of your mother. So you must wear, cover you have to cover your loins, per se. So we get into that situation. So again, we have nakedness again, right? And you have the intent, again, is to have an advantage in this war, in this Mahabharata. We want an advantage. But Krishna intervenes again, right? Because he's the deliverer of evil, deliverer from evil. And he wants to make sure that the Pandavas have a standing chance against this animus, um, opposition that they're against. So we have that situation as well. And Gandhari, she was very, very chaste. But again, we had a bogus situation, right? You can't question her leadership, right? But you can question her motive. So the situation wasn't optimal. Um, Now, if they did have those sentiments about following what was proper, we wouldn't have a story. It wouldn't be anything to talk about. Okay, we'll just bow down. We'll allow ourselves to be defeated, and then we'll make progress. So you have um, Banasura. He's got 1,000 arms, and then he's cut down to just 4, right? He only has 4 remaining. And as a result of this, um, he's seeing, even with Krishna and Shiva fighting, he says, wow, he's getting angry. Everything is being just complicated, destroyed. So in the end result, he had to capitulate to the will of the Supreme Lord and then glorify him as well. What was the statement? Because this was Krishna telling Shiva, because Banasura is from the family of Prahlad Maharaj, right? I can't kill him. If only he knew before. If he knew this beforehand, maybe he would have been a little bit more enthusiastic. But you can see, even in these battles, that when enthusiasm is lost, for that service, you can see people kind of getting into some deviation of activity just to win. They become so attached to winning, they forget the purpose of the event. We see this in sports events like baseball. People will grease the balls so that they can throw the ball and it slides, or people have cork bats, so when they make contact, they can hit the ball over the fence easier. There's all kinds. You see all this. You have rules to the game, and then you have the cheating. But who can cheat Krishna? He's expert at cheating. And he says this in the Bhagavad Gita, of cheats. He's supreme. You can't. Plus, he's all knowing, so he knows what's going to happen, right? So basically, this is just theater. We're participating in a theater, and they were covered by Maya, and we have no concept of what's going on. So we're acting out these things as though we're compelled by some force, and we work through these things. So, but it's interesting because we can talk, definitively about the role of a mother. Was it proper for a mother to save her son? Yes, that was proper. She ran out of options because she's not coming from a system that's pious. She's looking at, we're on top of everything. My son, he's conquering everybody. He's a devotee of Shiva. What could go wrong? Shiva's so powerful, right? You can't see anything past Shiva, right? And Shiva, his position is, Whatever Krishna wants, I will do, right? I will act accordingly because he has this loving relationship. So this is the difference between a devotee and a non-devotee, right? The devotee is intimately connected with the Lord and how he can please him. We see this again with Grandfather Bhishma, right? He's so, his intent is how can I make Krishna break his promise? I want to see his glory. And this is to glorify. It's not to make him a fool, embarrass him. It's just really good. How is the Lord going to resolve this if I use my energies and intent to try to get him to change the circumstance? So we see this. Dambo, Darpa, Vimanascha, Kroda Pushayam Evacha, Adyanam Cha Hitasya, Partha Sampadam Asurim. This is Bhagavad Gita 6. So we're starting to learn some of these natures of the demoniac people. Pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, harshness, and ignorance. These qualities belong to those demoniac nature, O son of Partha. So we see these things. So this in the 16th chapter, we see a litany of particular things, these qualities, which you can assign to. And then you can see it even currently in the nature of our society today. Pravritam cha nivrittam cha janana vidurasura na socham na pi characharo not satyam teshu vidyate. Bhagavad Gita 16:7. Those who are demoniac do not know what is to be done and what is not to be done. Neither cleanliness nor proper behavior nor truth is found in them. So we have this situation, what's to be done and what's not to be done. So what's not to be done is to take your clothes off in front of the Supreme Personality of God. That shouldn't be done, right? Right? Unless the Lord says, unless you're in a pastime of the gopis and he steals your clothes, right? Then those kind of things. He's initiating those things, right? Right? So I think we can all agree this wasn't for his pleasure, you know. And considering, I'm pretty sure Katara probably looked as youthful as any woman during the day, I mean, during that time. But still, she's a mother, you know, she's a mother. So this wasn't proper, you know. So she knew the protocol that if a naked woman's there, you have to turn your face away, right? Unlike I was mentioning on our way back, there's a I was in Seattle and there was a naked festival. There were all kinds of people on bicycles, naked and painted. They're painted blue. And I'm at this festival and I'm like, wow, this is really interesting. And then there was a community. Oh, we had devotees from the temple that we were doing Harinam. And I didn't know what to expect. And I got here and I was, it's like, this is really wild. So it's one of those situations. This is not something to do. And I saw all shapes and sizes. I saw all kinds of bicycles, and I'm just sitting here just thinking, how they just don't know what to do, right? This is where they're they have no clue that this is not proper, but because they're in this self-absorbed in their sense of self or their sense of body, and they put some women, a lot of women, mostly women. Some of the women would put their children on the back of the bike. They'd like a little seat on the back of the bike, and they'd be in their diapers, and they'd be it just right, and all kinds of headdress, and it was really wild. And then I just saw some data that there were like the top 5 cities in the U.S. that do these festivals, and I think Seattle was number 4. So Portland was ahead of them, and I can't think, maybe someplace in Arizona. So this is a common thing. It's a common theme, right? And you see this display of body consciousness that's out there like that. So you can see there's history. There's definitely history for this. But the question remains, in these festivals or otherwise, who are these people saving?
Who are they trying to save, right? You know, it's certainly not their reputation, right? Because if you don't care about reputation, then you can see that there's some perceivable attractiveness to, oh wow, or you can even look at nudist colonies, again, all shapes and sizes. And I have the bias. I'm thinking, you know, I'm not really trying to see that size. That's way too big to see, and it's just so they have again this sense of body. You see what people do it every day. They decide they're going to be something, and it's not necessarily the norm, whatever the norm is. Well, let's say from materialistic standards, some norm, and then they deviate from it. But the norm is also a deviation. So what's proper? So if you try to um, get people off of this concept of improper activity, then they feel like, well, you're impeding upon my freedoms. I want to be free, right? Um, it's like the story of Adam and Eve, a story, I should say, a story of Adam and Eve, where they eat the forbidden fruit and they discover that they're naked and that they go cover themselves up. No, I didn't know. So maybe what needs to happen in situations like this in Seattle and Portland and elsewhere, Philadelphia was another place. I think they were number one, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe they need the forbidden fruit so that they can be aware. I'm naked. I don't need to look like this. So um, those are the challenges that we see. But we can see there is some protocol for these activities to take place, and we see it in history. Um, in the counseling realm, we use this term codependency, right? So we see that mothers, they are engaged in this codependency with their children, and they kind of allow them to do things which are not proper because they believe what they're doing because of their status, then it's okay. It's okay to murder, rape, pillage, do all these horrific things to people because do whatever it takes to gain the power, do whatever it takes to gain the money. And this is the way our society is running. So we see this example of do what it takes to win, right? As though this is a sporting event. Let me cheat, so let me distract. I also think of improper um, um, disrobing is like when you go to, what was it, 1972? There was, some of you probably won't even remember this, but 1972, there was the Academy Awards, and the actor, David Niven, was presenting, and some streaker comes out on stage. And then you have World Series, baseball games, football games, people, men, mostly men now, they're running across the field and they're in the nature, they're in their natural, right? So they're saying, I'm here, notice me. And then some big burly security guy or a football player, they tackle them. And then they get maybe some ribs broken or something like that. And then they want to go to take them to court and sue the the athlete, for he tackled me. Well, you weren't supposed to be on the field. So you have these things that take place all the time. So then you have asatya apratistam te jagat ahur anishvaram apar param sambutam kim anyat kama ahotukam. So they say that this world is unreal. It has no foundation, no God, no controller. They say that it's produced from sex desire and it has no cause other than lust. So there's a connection here. There's certainly a connection. Seeing the body um, disrobe simply to agitate the mind. So Banasura's mother wanted to agitate Krishna. I can't go as far as to say take it a step further, but when you see bodies that it's agitating, right? It does an agitation. So They say this world is unreal, with no foundation, no God, no controller, produced from sex desire. And they say they do not think the world was created by God for a certain purpose. So here's someone who doesn't even recognize the Supreme Personality of God is in front of them, right? So they have this assessment of what they believe is protocol. We're going to create the situation because we have to win at all cost. For them, there's no difference between the spirit and matter, and they do not accept the Supreme Spirit. Everything is matter only, and the whole cosmos is supposed to be a mass of ignorance. According to them, everything is void, and whatever manifestation exists is due to the ignorance and perception. They take for granted that all manifestations of diversity is a display of ignorance, and just as a dream, we may create so many things which actually have no existence. Then, when we are awake, we shall see that everything is simply a dream. So, when are we going to wake up? When we wake up from the dream, right? The illusion that this is not real, right? None of these things are real. And the question is, how do we cope with reality? And an example of this is a lot of people have these near-death experiences. And once they get out of this three-dimensional space, they're looking at things in a completely different. I feel love. Everyone, I'm seeing maybe my answer. Everybody's loving me. And I see the Creator. I see the creation. I see it. And everything is harmonizing in a way. And then they're told, we have to go back. They're like, I refuse. And they can't, they're compelled. They can't refuse because we have to finish what we're here to do. And part of that is having the understanding while we're in this deplorable situation, right? Samsare sagare gore bittam mam saranakatam sarvibyo birmuktem kurure sharasvati. So this is a prayer that is being offered to Radharani, that I'm in this, I'm surrendered to you because I am in this horrible circumstance in this universe of birth and death, and somehow or another I want to take shelter of your lotus feet. O Queen of the demigods, please protect me from all fears. So there's a program that we have to initiate in order to get out of this malaise that we're in and these circumstances. And now the other thing too, even though I said all those things about these people, the other important thing is not really to judge them. And why? Because there's a good likelihood we may have been in that situation ourselves. I remember my early days here in Chicago. My youngest brother, we're about 10 years apart. And I remember he would go out of the back door with nothing on. He's a kid. And we kind of tolerate that. Oh, that's so cute, right? Right? But today, oh, certainly he wouldn't do that, because he's conscious like Adam and Eve. Where's my leaf? I need to protect myself. So, um, so this protocol that we find um, about loosening the hair, and I'll kind of end at this, and we'll open it up for questions. After eating, you should not go out in the streets without having washed your mouth, hands, and feet. You should not go out in the evening or with your hair loose, nor should you go out unless you are properly decorated with ornaments. You should not leave the house unless you are very grave and sufficiently covered. So I was thinking in this same circumstance how devotees, we have to go out in a particular type, tila, kurta, and dhoti. And so when we're visible, this is a uniform. So these things apply. And after we eat, we clean the mouth. bathing, all these things. And why is that? Well, one, these practices help to maintain and purify the consciousness. I know it seems difficult for people to understand that. It's just cleansing, but it does. It creates a habit. Now, some people just stop there, right? So you have these um, people get into religious activities simply because they want to create this economic development. But beyond that, there's a state, loosening, mukta, right? Or moksha. So we're going to get into this loosening. Loosening is unraveling the trigunas, the grips of the goodness, passion, and ignorance. And so we have to separate from that. Because at a stage, those three don't have any significance if you're in Vasuddhasattva, if the consciousness is in the proper space. So we're getting these nice pastimes about Krishna and how he's dealing with his devotees and how he chooses to purify others. Even those demons and ghosts, they got liberation. They got some benefit from what they were doing. So we go till 8:30 or abouts. Huh? 12 minutes? Okay. Any comments, questions, corrections, realizations? Going once, going twice.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Thank you so much for your class, comparing the verse with what's going on in our society these days. And it, in general, it looks like that the population born, as the time passes, is getting more and more degraded. We could see glimpses of these traits in history as well, but now it has become much more popular. I was thinking that one of the benedictions in Kali Yuga is that the more fallen the conditioned soul is, the, there will be the more joy in redemption if we surrender to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the process of chanting the holy names. That's the flip side of being fallen. But just thinking about it. So if you
That's a very good point. Everything's on schedule. All the calamities, everything is on schedule. So that is a proper way to look at it. Yeah, there's a lot of difficulty going on, but without the difficulty, well, what we've been seeing for centuries is that there's been this force that's been suppressing people's freedom to express themselves in their natural spirituality. So now that they're getting desperate, they're kind of like unclothing themselves, right? They're kind of naked. We're seeing a lot of things that why would they create this particular circumstance where thousands of people are going to just drop off the planet? Why are we seeing so much challenges in weather? Why are people so short-tempered? Why are so many leaders resigning, from CEOs, from these positions? Well, why would they do that, right? Why all these companies filing for bankruptcy? Because they had a misstep because they decided we're going to push this social agenda, and it didn't work. Why are they doing all those things? So this is like becoming naked, right? They're so desperate for the control that they're actually losing. This is how we're seeing this degradation in society and community. Um, when people get really desperate, I don't care. I'll kill myself. They jump off of something because they can't. They're so exposed that they have to take some action, right? Reacting to some of the things that they've been impressed upon. So you've seen a lot of just in the last 3 years. You've seen a lot of just things that you wouldn't think would take place, but they're happening now, and it's not just restricted. We're seeing animals wash up on beaches, like fish, hundreds of thousands of birds falling out of the sky, um, lakes drying up that never did that. And then now we're seeing remains of prehistoric animals, all these things that scientists, well, these things don't exist. And now there's disclosure about a lot of this stuff. So without these desperate acts, it wouldn't be an opportunity to see how mercy is being made availed due to Lord Chaitanya and other great souls that are assisting in this process for us to become conscious of what our real constitutional position as opposed to our condition. So if we continue to focus on our conditions, right, then we'll fall off the bridge with everybody else. But we should actually take some retrospect and look at things and then investigate ourselves. Where am I? You know, you're in a corporate building or some kind of school building, and it says you are here. It shows you where the exit sign is. You know, you are here. So we have to consider where we are in the displacement in this universal body. Anyone else?
I'll try.
Okay.
um, I thought it was very excellent pointing out that the display of the naked body on the part of Kotara was not necessarily coming from a place of understanding protocol, but more actually with the intent to agitate. And of course, that makes perfect sense from the point of view of looking at the demoniac mentality with the pride, conceit, and anger. So I was just reflecting a little on it and thinking that it's there's no acknowledgement of vulnerability on the part of the demoniac mentality, whereas on the part of persons aspiring in self-realization, there's constant awareness of vulnerability, one's vulnerability, and the necessity to perform actions that are pleasing to a supreme controller. So I was just reflecting a little bit on that point of, vulnerability versus having no concept of it.
Yeah, that's that's a good point. And as you were mentioning it, I thought of something else that the one thing that those who are adverse to Krishna have, like Kamsa, always meditating on it. It's not the proper way, but they're always meditating on the Lord. So demons, they're willing to sacrifice anything in order to achieve some goal, whereas the devotee is trying to cultivate the ability to sacrifice without the sense of body consciousness so that he can serve Krishna. Because we're hesitant. We hesitate a little bit. You know, should I do that? Nah. I don't know if I want to do that. I'll serve, but I'll serve back here. Whereas the demons, because their interest is only in themselves, right? Even if they're serving someone else, they're thinking, how can I get that person's position? There was a famous play on Broadway, was How to Succeed in Business Without Trying. It was Robert, I can't remember the guy's name, Robert something. It was a nice musical. He started out as a mailroom boy, and then he would read this book on how to succeed, and he was following it. But there were other people reading the book, and they were trying to stop him. And I remember that one of the musical songs that they had, gotta stop that man, we gotta stop that man, cold, or he'll stop me. It was very fun. And he would sing, his counterpart was, I believe in you. I believe. He was talking to himself, right? So he's trying to do these things. So you can see this competitive nature that's in the material energy to supplant someone else because that's the plateau of their goal. This is as far as I'm going. I just want to suppress and replace you Whereas the devotee, they're trying to overcome those tendencies of aham mameti, I, me, and mine, all these kind of things. So this is some of the distinctions. So we're on one track and they're on another. And eventually when they get exhausted, like we have, we get on this track. And then once we exhaust this, there's another track. There's another track for our spirituality. And we haven't gotten to that yet. So we have to go through this process. We're doing sadhana and then we do raganuga bhakti. There's a progression that we go so that we can get on track. And as we do that, we see we loosen that loosening. Then it's proper. We don't have these. Or for instance, you're yogi and you're not wearing anything. Consciousness is different. It's all about consciousness. And that's where we have to see, where are we in the building? Here's the exit. How can I get to the exit? And we get detoured from getting to the exit to get us out of the matrix per se that we're in. Okay. 2 minutes. Anyone else? Yes, Prabhu. For you, you could take as long as you like. We may be gone, but
One last question.
yes, Prabhu.
Then, once a demon, always a demon. Karma doesn't work with demons because they're just naturally bad. There's no hope for a demon.
Question? That's a question.
That's a question. I mean, once a demon, always a demon?
Putana was a demon, and she got liberation.
That's right.
There are many others. The guru of Bali, he got some benefit. I mean, there's a litany of. Well, let's take it personal. We've been demons, or you could say, or we are. Sometimes we act demoniac, but we're here to get mercy, right? We do get benefit, and even the animal kingdom. Now they're considered, they don't have any karma, but the circumstance to put them in that place, right? These are choices. They're independents, but they still get mercy in the form of, they get maybe remnants, prashadam, we're eating, we drop something off our plate, so mercy is always available. And sometimes we have to be interested in how we give it to others as well. So we have to be merciful. We have to be, rather than thinking Krishna is going to give the mercy, how come we can't give mercy? If we're part and parcel, if we're godlike, right? We're qualitatively the same, then why can't we give an abundant quantity of mercy to others? Because when we give it, there's more coming, right? We don't want to block those things. So we have a responsibility to also be merciful. And that's that vanchakalpa krupishta kripa sandhu vivacha patitinam padam yoga. We have a responsibility. So this is how God, Krishna, can manifest through our activities, but we have to be conscious of it. Is that all right, Prabhu?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Subal had a question. All the heavy hitters are coming out now. I got to up my game.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I
Hare
was
Krishna.
listening from downstairs. Thank you so much. One thing that I thought is that you have the Bhagavatam as the ultimate historical record of the whole universe and cosmic manifestation. And if your name makes it in the Bhagavatam, you have, there is certain importance and there's certain relevance and something that is, part of this great, great historical, narration. So you're thinking on this queen Queen Mother, who her name is her name is there. So in the Bhagavatam. So, and she belongs to this great dynasty, the dynasty
Digest.
of the Dietas, in which Prahlad Maharaj, from Prahlad Maharaj. So, so I think Banasura is the son of Virochan. So there's Prahlad, then there's he's the son of Bali.
Bali, yeah.
So this is then the queen of Bali Maharaj, who is a Mahajan. So she is not ordinary lady.
Yes.
She have to be a very qualified lady, very qualified queen. And the queen of a powerful queen is a very powerful personality. So it's not ordinary lady, an ordinary queen or some lesser demoniac,
Yeah.
sort of obscure king. But this is, a great personality. Now, obviously, what she did is enough merit to be able to be named in the Bhagavatam as part of Krishna's Leela. And in one sense, one can look at her actions from the perspective of a great personality, also being part of Krishna Leela. Krishna Leela, in this case, he was the purpose was not to kill Vanasura, but to destroy kill Vanasura's pride. And her action also, she doesn't do it necessarily for some lower type
Right.
of things,
Right.
but she does it for a very, as you say, you mentioned the word sacrifice.
Sacrifice for her son.
She sacrificed for her son, so she goes to that extent. But she understood that that's the only way that Krishna will turn, his face, because she is as cultured as Krishna. She's a very cultured lady, so she understood the only way to save my son is like this. And Krishna won't look at me, he will turn. So but nevertheless she sacrificed her dignity and imagine the position of a queen mother to do that publicly, in a battlefield, and to be recorded like that. So she's willing to do that type of thing. So I thought, just to mention that aspect, that this is a great, great personality doing some action that externally we may question, but when we start to look deep at it, is glorious, and such is part of the Bhagavatam. So I thought just to
That's
add
nice.
that.
As you mentioned that, it's also good to note. I was thinking of Aditi and her deviation because of her. She's trying to destroy Indra. Because of the death of her two sons. So you see these, or even the conception, conceiving at the wrong time. So you see these deviations that kind of manifest. But the point you were making about the mother and son, and then the lineage, the connection there, you see more of that in the Daitya line. You see more of those things that take place. And the thing that struck me was that those who cheat expect others to be fair. So Krishna being fair, right? He's always following. Even if it doesn't appear that he's following, he's always following some protocol. So his protocol was, you turn away. She, as you said, she knew she knew the custom, and she relied on Krishna following custom, even though she's trying out of desperateness, she's looking for Krishna to turn away. So you see these things happen quite often. I'll cheat, but hopefully they play fair. And then we can have some kind of resolve this way.
Yes, I was just thinking also that, it's such a culture society. Very, demons were culture in that
Yes.
too. So, I mean, you see the case of Duryodhana
Hmm.
when Gandhari ordered him, come naked,
Yeah.
so I will give you a shield on your whole body. And Duryodhana was so uncomfortable about that idea, you know, to come naked in front of his mother and his mother to see him naked. I mean, so even for, I mean, in this society, it's not an ordinary demon.
Mm.
It's a very cultured people. And Krishna plays with that. Krishna say, what? How are you going to go, naked like the Pura Lisa Gamcha, cover that
Right.
part.
Right.
So Duryodhana say, yeah, right. I mean, like, how can I come naked in front of my mother like that? So,
I was also thinking about Gandhari, how she was perturbed at Krishna, and how her motivation dealing with him later, right? These curses and things, all these things. Everybody's so mad at Krishna, we're gonna curse him, and this is his exit. As a result, I mean, everything that they throw at him, he says, "I'm gonna work everything out. It's gonna come out to my advantage." Yeah. Okay, Jai. I guess we're good, and we can take Prashadam. I don't want anybody cursing me because we can't take Prashadam on time. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki.